Welcome to your State School Board debate. I'm Christine Cook with Sutherland Institute. We are excited to have this conversation between candidates and voters. Just to remind you that education is very important, not just because it's a political topic, but because it goes to who we are as people. We're created to learn and to accomplish great things, and education helps us do that. So the work of the board is also important to that, which is why we believe that these races and this debate is so important. Candidates, this is your opportunity to make your best pitch to the voters about why you should be on the board. And voters, this is your opportunity to take notes, live tweet, and ask questions to your candidates. So first, we will start with introductory remarks. We have 2 minutes. We're actually going to start with Lisa.
Hello, my name is Lisa Cummins. I have lived in the Harriman area for the last 11 years, have loved it. The reason I am running for the state school board is because for the last 6 years, while I have been teaching the public, I've gone from Logan to St. George and Blanding and various national events, speaking about anti-Common Core issues and education and educating parents and legislators and teachers. And when Jefferson Moss decided not to continue in this seat, I investigated the candidates and found that there was no one representing my voice, that parents were the experts of their children, that they weren't being heard, that concerns weren't being addressed. And there was a lot of miscommunication actually going on, from whether it be from the state to the district, or the district to the parents and the teachers, and so forth, so on and so forth. And I've discovered that it's time that someone step up and start speaking about the real truth and the real issues going on, and not sugarcoating it, and not lying about it, circumventing. There's a book out there called The Fallacy Detective, and there's about 28 different ways to tell a lie, but I only know of one way to tell the truth. And so, here it is in black and white. I've got 54 pages of notes and more on the way that I'm continually researching and keeping up on the current issues of education, and I hope to bring that to the table of the state school board.
Thank you. Erin.
My name is Erin Preston, and why I am running for the State Board of Education is this. I have a professional career of 20 years as an attorney. The last 10 years, however, spent starting schools, building schools, being an administrator, and being an education advocate. Originally, I'm a farm kid from Idaho who grew up on a family farm, working construction and farming with my family. We all lived on the same piece of property with my grandparents and my great-grandma. Learned hard work and do the right thing. Thanks to the grace of some wonderful teachers who saw more in me than I saw in myself, I was prepared for college, and before I knew I was going to go, I got lucky there. Went to BYU Law School, and then set about changing the world, or so I thought. Went to work with the Securities and Exchange Commission, prosecuting stock fraud initially, did my part there. From there I went into business, but when I had my own kids and started looking into educational options, I became frustrated with some of the options that were at hand, and I set about building a school that would align with the way I learned, which is inquiry-based, Socratic method, the idea of you're presented with ideas and you do something with them. From that grew out Providence Hall Charter School. I'm very proud of the work that we did there as a founder, former board chair, and head of school for a number of years. One of the things I'm most proud about is that we worked with the districts and we worked with other schools in the area and statewide in education advocacy. So we were truly a charter that became a laboratory of innovation, hopefully helping others. For the last 2 years, I have worked as an attorney representing schools and districts throughout the state. I think we can do more with the resources that we have. That's why I'm running.
Thank you. We'll actually start into the questions now, and we'll start with Erin. In order to make decisions on the school board, you need to have guiding principles. What one principle most guides your decision-making approach to education?
Integrity. Standing by the decisions that we make, being accountable for those decisions. with that in mind, you make decisions very carefully and you stand by them once they are made. Again, the form kid thing. I grew up with, surrounded by family. Anything I did wrong was noticed, anything I did right was noticed. And I had a reputation of the family to uphold. I had others that counted on me. And that's what I would bring to the State Board of Education. I've brought that to everything that I can do. I work very, very hard to get things right. I talk to people. I talk to all of the stakeholders in situations. I want to learn from the best. I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I need to talk to the smartest people in the room and come up with solutions. That's my approach to coming up with the best solutions. And then I am resolute in making sure that those things happen. I make things happen. I build schools. I build coalitions. I build groups that can work together. And that's how things happen. We owe this to our students. And I would not be demonstrating integrity if I couldn't make those things happen.
Thank you. Lisa?
Guiding principles. Integrity, absolutely. Honesty, consistency. For the last 6 years, I have stood up for parents' voices. I have stood with legislators and have worked with legislators in providing laws that will protect our children. I have been doing the research and keeping up on current events and things happening back in DC and how it will affect our students here in Utah. Integrity is all I have. I am not backed by a UEA. I am not backed by any conglomerate that has tried to wheel and deal me. I stand on my own 2 feet, and I'll stand alone if I have to, and I have. And my record shows that. The public knows this of me. So that is what I would take to the board. It would not change.
I am endorsed by the UEA, and I'm actually very proud of that, and I want to address that really quickly. I've served on 3 legislative education task forces, and I have consistently been on the opposite side of the table of the Utah Education Association. When they endorsed me, I was somewhat shocked and very pleased. What they said is, we've seen you be reasonable. We know that you are advocating for the best interests of the children. When I accepted, I said, I do so knowing that we are not always going to agree, but I am grateful for the support of the teachers that you represent, and far be it from me to turn that down. So I am grateful for that. Yes, I am endorsed by the UEA. I'm beholden to no one.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question, and Lisa will start this. Today, the Education Interim Committee heard recommendations about assessment and accountability. Mm-hmm. If you were on the board, what changes in assessment and accountability would you like to pursue?
Interesting question. So I talked with Representative David Liffrith today about that. He said that they've opened a bill going forward to explore that going further. The board has talked about getting rid of SAGE. Now, SAGE has been a detriment to our children. It has been non-valid. It has been a joke, really, to parents, to students, to teachers, and unfair to all. Going forward, there is talk of having embedded assessments in curriculum with tablet one-on-one curriculum. But there's also been talk of comparing the United States, specifically Utah, to other countries. Howard Stevenson went over to China and he talked about comparing us to China, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. But one thing that they did point out was that China only tests once, that Finland only tests once, that other countries whose students are succeeding only test once. And yes, they have summative testing as they go along, but the major testing happens once. And I think we're over-testing our students, we're overburdening our students, and they're coming home with anxiety and PTSD, frankly, and I'm quite concerned, and I'm done with it. I'm done with over-testing. This is ridiculous. I think parents and teachers know exactly what's going on with their students and know exactly what's going on in the classroom, and that's where it needs to stay.
Erin?
We have to find a way to measure how we are doing in Utah education. And we owe this to our education system, to our teachers, and to our students. Do I think SAGE has got it right? No, I don't. SAGE has good intent. I like that it was developed by Utah teachers. However, it is a very long and time-consuming test that takes away from classroom instruction. The fact that we're giving it every year is problematic, I agree. We have such a high opt-out rate that it is no longer relevant, I believe, for the teachers. And if it is not relevant for the teachers, and it is not relevant for the students, because we have so many of them clicking through the test to get done, and it's not relevant to the parents because they are pulling their kids out, then it is not a relevant test. That being said, we need a test to be relevant. We need testing for two things. Formative, meaning forming the direction of the education that the teacher is providing, and summative. So how have we really done? I think that we can reduce the amount of summative testing that we are doing, both through shorter tests and through various means of testing, and I'm very glad that the task force is going to be looking into some of these options. I do, however, think that formative assessments, so allowing the teachers to do more quick check analysis of how is this student really doing? Are they reading on level? Are they missing this concept? Having teachers develop those tests themselves, having the districts develop those tests themselves, or ideally in teacher groups or student groups would be the best case scenario for me in assessing students.
Just to clarify, I asked David if the opting out for parents option will be taken off the table. He said that there is no way that that will be taken away from the parents. So that is good news. They are looking at implementing the Aspire ACT test, replacing the SAGE testing, and you will be able to opt out of that as well. The major concern with opting out, with having these tests, is the data collecting. With FERPA being violated on a constant basis, with the third-party shareholders having access to your students' data, to be able to solicit your students' data, is unacceptable to me as a parent. And I would expect that it's unacceptable to you as well. And it's important that we keep those strongholds in place to protect our children at all costs, because we know the federal government will not.
Student privacy, student data privacy. Lisa just brought up a really good point that I'd like to address too. We owe privacy to our students and to our students' data. Totally agree. That being said, we have to find a way to measure how we're doing. That means, in my mind, aggregate data. So the data that a school puts together and has at the aggregate should be able to go to the higher level, to the district and to the state in more and more generalized chunks, so that we can understand how we are doing. Student-specific data absolutely needs to be kept at the school. One of the jobs that I have as an attorney is working with schools to ensure privacy of data. That is paramount to me. I want the privacy of my students' data as well. I'm just as concerned as any of you may be about the privacy of data. Thanks.
We're going to read that again. This is good. This last week, or a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, companies like Hasbro and Nick Jr. were found out that they were tracking students through their games and beyond their programs. Yes, they had broken laws, and yes, they did pay fines. What Arnie Duncan did to the FERPA in December of 2011, was to have parental authority be optional and best practice, not required. And that has severely hurt our students. And now we're looking at a $2 billion industry in accessing our students' data. Our children are being called human capital. And aggregate data is great in theory, but any hacker knows they can go right down to the middle and find out who you are.
Thank you. We love to have the conversation. We're going to move on to another question. Utah is dealing with a teacher shortage. How can we attract and retain teachers? Erin, you can start this one. Lisa.
Well, we talked, Spencer Cox, Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox talked about this today at the first annual Salt Lake Valley Economics Summit. We talked about retention and having, raising the pay, of course, is absolutely astronomical, for starting pay. But really, pay starts at the district level, so that's a district decision, not a state school board decision. However, my concern with the teachers is that they are being over-regulated. They are being told how to teach in the classroom. Teachers are being provided scripts on what to say in the classroom and how to present it. That is my problem. The experienced teachers, they said the retention is a huge problem. The experienced teachers are leaving. I cannot tell you how many teachers have come to me and said, Lisa, you're right. I have to leave because I can no longer teach in the classroom the way I was wanting to teach, the way I've been teaching for 25 years. I've left my retirement. What do I do? They're leaving because they cannot handle the regulations being forced upon them in the classroom any longer. And that's why they're leaving. And that is not being addressed at any level that I have come across in any discussion. And that's a huge concern for me.
The loss of the teachers that we're currently experiencing has been forecast for a while, and we are full-blown in the middle of it. As with any professional, you reach maximum competency at the 3 to 5 year level. By about 5 years, we are losing about half of the teachers that we have started with. So when they're just hitting their highest competency, we are losing them. We're also losing a lot of the older teachers, the more experienced teachers. This is the #1 priority and the #1 risk, I believe, right now in Utah education. We need those experienced teachers to be able to best instruct our students. There are 2 basic ways that I think that we can attract more teachers. One is pay. As a standard against other professionals, teachers are going down and down and down in how much they are paid as compared to similarly educated professionals. It is starting to not make sense economically to be a teacher. There are a lot, however, who are just committed to education. I've known so many of these teachers. I've been blessed to work with so many of these teachers. They are committed because they are committed to the students. However, ultimately, you shouldn't have to take a vow of poverty to be a teacher. The other part of what motivates, well, the primary part of what motivates teachers, I believe, is a desire to help students, a desire to educate. That's the professionalism part, that's the best part of what it is to be a teacher. We are attacking that too. Unfortunately, in the situations that I've been in as an attorney and as an administrator, I have seen a diminishing respect for teachers as professionals and sometimes as individuals. I've been in too many situations where teachers are being personally attacked. I would like to have a teacher bill of rights where teachers can say, we are now ending the conversation, and I would like to have more mentors paid to be mentors.
Parents are the primary educators of their children. That is in the Utah State Constitution, as well as in your family creed, I'm sure. Teachers, we pay for their salaries. We need to respect them, absolutely. We need to step forward as parents and be engaged in the classroom, absolutely. Here's the problem. The mandates coming down from our state is actually coming down from the federal government. You have, for the 2017 education budget, includes $10 million towards Teach to Lead grants. That will be coming down to us. You have teacher and principal pathways that was first launched in 2012, and it will come down and affect teachers. When we move over to CBE, we will have, instead of professional development, we will have micro-credentialing, and that is coming down. And you will have to prove to your constituents that you can do what you do. I think that's an insult to teachers.
Thank you. Erin, you'll start this next one. In your opinion, what is the most pressing problem in Utah education, and how would you address it?
There are many problems that stem off the primary problem, which is that we are the lowest funded per pupil state in the nation. We don't have enough money to serve our kids properly at this point. As part of the things that are a result of that, first would be the teacher shortage. Second would be the supplemental programs and the supports that would be necessary to assist all students as individual students. We have to do with what we have to do with economically. I understand that. But financial transparency, ensuring that we are using every dollar to the best use possible, is absolutely critical given the money that we have. I also think that the governor, the legislature, and others should really make funding education and funding the increases in education that we need a top priority.
Money. It's always about money. Yes, we are one of the lowest. We're not the lowest, but we're one of the lowest. And it doesn't matter if we pay $12,000 per student, like they do in New Jersey, or the $8,000 that we do here in this state. I homeschool children, my own children, 2 of them. I've homeschooled on my 5 children on various bases throughout their years, I guess. I've had to budget in curriculum for them, and I've helped them to succeed. I think it's how we manage the money, not just how much the money is being spent. Governor Herbert boasts that he raised it $1.8 million, I believe, in the last few years. And there's other things that are involved. We have money being taken away from our education budget. We have laws that allow legislators who have earmarks to take that money away. We have, used to be a K-12 money, now it's K-16 money, and we found that UDOT has access to that money, and that's a problem. Where is this money going? I would like to see a line-by-line audit. I know that Washington County had one, and it shocked them. They found little amount of money, about $52,000 or more, if I'm correct or wrong. But if we can do that with every district, I'm pretty sure we can find money there and reallocate our resources. It's about being smart.
Right. This next question will also start with Erin. In what ways do you believe your approach to education differs from your opponent?
I'm a collaborator. I work with all stakeholders. I have been on 3 legislative education task forces now, where I've had the opportunity to sit across from people who disagree with me or believe that they disagree with me when we sit down. I have been very proud to have conversation after conversation after conversation until we arrive at solutions that really work for people. Now, personally, what matters to me in education? I mentioned before inquiry-based education, so the idea of developing critical thinking skills is key for me and how I educate my students, my sons, but I think it's also important for our state. There's a quote that I really subscribe to. We are currently preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist using technologies that haven't been invented in order to solve problems we don't even know are problems yet. In my experience, I have seen the world and the business world change so much. The only thing that we can do to truly prepare our students for the future is teach them how to think. Using old methodologies, using old ways of teaching, old ways of organizing schools is not going to get us to the future. What's going to get us to the future is teaching students how to create something new from what they are given. I like project-based learning. I like subject matter learning where students are actually given something to do something with and they create something new. If we're not teaching students how to do something new, they're not going to be prepared for the environment that we have coming up, for which we cannot prepare them in any other way.
Thank you. Same question.
I I believe very much that America was built on entrepreneurship. Now, I don't know how more critical or how more creative you can get than being an entrepreneur. Teaching character is paramount to education, and it doesn't matter what faces them as long as they have the character and the courage and the integrity to face it. Problems can be solved, solutions can come. History repeats. I'm a lover of history. I actually teach ancient history this year, and I've taught U.S. history in the past. Human nature never changes. It hasn't changed from Adam, and it's not going to change tomorrow. Human nature will repeat, and there will be a cycle of prosperity, complacency, envy, war, disgruntlement, and destruction, and humility, and then it starts all over again. We're in that cycle now. And if these children don't understand that cycle, that they are not going to know how to repair that going forward. Character is paramount, and that is what I profess to with education.
I understand that you teach lessons on this. I am a big believer in we learn from the past, and hopefully we learn to not repeat things that we have made mistakes with in the past. I am, however, much more optimistic about our students and their ability to really make changes going forward. People talk about lack of faith in the generations these days, and I consistently say I have more faith in kids these days than I have in my own generation. I see them operating with logic. I see them operating with good intent. I see them operating with empathy. I think if we acknowledge them as what they are, which is a great generation coming up, and rise to the occasion with them, they will be better for it, and we will be better for it.
My son Austin last year brought home a book called Unwind. And this book was about teenagers who live to be about 7 or 18, and then they die, and their organs get harvested because their parents want to recreate them. I am appalled. I had one teacher tell me that this book was great, that it talks about the value of life. As a lover of history and a lover of literature, I can give you a whole list that's a lot better than about Unwind. We have a high suicide rate in the state of Utah. Surely there's some impact happening in our classrooms by providing horrible literature. And power of suggestion is huge. I think the turnaround can happen in the schools, and yes, I think we do have a powerful generation coming up, but they need guidance. They're lost and they're angry, and we need to help them.
Great, thank you for all these wonderful comments. We're actually going to move to audience questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll bring a microphone to you, and we ask that you state your name and keep it brief.
First of all, thank you for hosting this. My name is Dave Richards, and I have a question about dyslexia. It is probably the most common reason for reading failure in our elementary school, and yet our teachers here in Utah receive little instruction or no instruction whatsoever in any of their training, college or post-college, about dyslexia, even dyslexia awareness. So how would you address that?
I'll start with Lisa.
My only, and forgive me for my lack of knowledge on this, I thought my son was dyslexic, and I took it upon myself to test him. I brought home a book that did coloring and mirroring of image and having him draw and going through, and you're shaking your head, no, that's not the correct way. This was through a dyslexia company that I was researching. So, but beyond that, I don't know. Here's what I do know. The special needs kids, the definition is being broadened and expanded to be included with normal kids. They are not being taken out for their own issues. I talked with parents with ASL and LSL students who are experiencing their own issues. They are being clumped together in the same group. They are being told that they have to take the same testing that the regular kids have to take and pass it. And it's being clumped together in that school's grading system. And that's being a detriment to the schools. And that's unfair to you as a parent, to the child, and to the school. We're setting our kids up for failure on purpose. Now, should there be dyslexia training? Absolutely. I think we need to know our students, right? But the problem is there's no funding. That's a huge problem.
Good question, David. Dyslexia is not funded under special education funding, which is part of the issue here. However, there have been some attempts to make it funded in the state. Senator Osmond ran a bill 2 years ago to do dyslexia pilot programs. I believe that those are getting to the stage where they should reap some results on proving out different ways to address dyslexia. As an administrator in a school, I've seen exactly what you were seeing, which is a large number of students with dyslexia who were not immediately addressed and not immediately treated. Dyslexia is one of those issues where the earlier the intervention, the better it will take. Now, from that, we obviously need to be able to identify and address it at the earliest stage possible. There are steps in place to do that I think we need to follow up on, put more resources into, and learn from what we have now had in a pilot program. That being said, I'd like to go to a broader issue, which is every child is different, every child is special, and every child is normal. Because each child is unique. I believe that we need to not just label kids as dyslexic or whatever the other labels are, but understand that you have complex children. So currently, the less funding that we have, the fewer resources that we have, the fewer teachers that we have, the more we have to target the middle students. What we're missing are the students on the end. So the students who might have reading difficulties, the students who might be performing high in some areas. One former teacher of mine has a student who got a perfect score on Math Sage, but yet has severe reading difficulties. We need to start addressing students as individuals with all the pluses and minuses and helping them find their best area of specialty and build on that.
Do we have another audience question?
My name is Brian Call, and my mom's a teacher here in Utah. And as I hear her talk about what she experiences at work every day, and then I compare it to what I see in the business world, one of the real concerns I have is that administrators at all levels are either prevented from due to regulations or don't know how to effectively manage and motivate in human capital. I watch at how effective managers and executives in the companies I work for motivate people and ask them to do more with less and ask them to work hard and do all these things. And then I watch how we treat our teachers as employees, and I'm absolutely disgusted that we're not taking any of these best practices from the business world to effectively manage, motivate, and help teachers be the employees we're paying them to be, and ultimately help them to be able to teach effectively. What would you do to help administrators empower our teachers and motivate their teachers and help them to be more effective employees?
Thank you. Erin?
I love that question, Brian. I was a regional manager for a legal publisher for 6 years prior to going into the education world. I managed 20 attorneys spread out across 7 states. Being a people manager is the hardest thing that I have ever done. I had to learn how to do it better when I became an administrator of a school. First, board chair, overseeing the administration, and then head of school overseeing, I think we maxed out at about 350 employees. How we best motivate is you have faith in people. you help them develop where they see themselves needing to develop, you help provide assistance where they need it, but then you also provide rewards, support, and encouragement along the way. I mentioned earlier the one negative that I have on this. I do see too many instances where teachers are attacked by students, by parents. This is a 1% problem, but it's incredibly demoralizing. I think administrators need to be trained in the law. This is one of the things that I actually do. These are the limits that you can set. This is when you can say, okay, the conversation is over until we can become civil again. So I think protecting the teachers is the first route. Second is helping them feel valued, and that's part of that. Help them feel valued in the process. Provide them the support, provide them the training, provide them the time with each other to collaborate and learn from each other. Teachers are smart, and they're smart individually and they're smarter together. When you provide them that support, you show them that faith, and you enable them to do things, they will show the initiative to be better and to do better. The administrator's job, I believe, is to ensure that they have those opportunities and that the issues are blocked as best they can so that they can do their best work.
From my understanding, I have not been an administrator, but I've worked with teachers, and I have been a teacher, and I am a teacher. Probably not in the credentialed sense in a public school, but I am a teacher. It is good to talk and collaborate and to relieve that stress. It is important. It is very important. However, with all of the accolades, with all of the good talk, with all of the camaraderie that can happen, nothing will squash the teacher more than the mandates and the regulations that are coming down. Once the one-on-one curriculum and tablets come into place, they're talking about having teachers become facilitators. This profession will slowly die, and they will no longer do what they're doing now at the bare minimum. If we release those regulations, can you imagine how happy those teachers would be? Can you imagine those lifelong teachers who have been there 25, 30 years would come back and say, I want to inspire those kids again? I've done it. I've seen kids light up and be excited about something and want to go and share that and experiment and exercise what they've learned. I know what it's like. I don't want to squash that for any teacher. My son came to me and he says, Mom, you know why you're the best teacher that I have? Because you smile, because you enjoy teaching your subject. Do our teachers enjoy teaching right now? They're so squashed down by having to prep, curriculum mapping, then do administrative work, then make up, we don't have, where's all the money going that's being given to the districts, both from the federal government and the state? This is a problem. We've got to find out where our money is going.
And just to be clear, neither of us are teachers.
Oh, I am a teacher.
Okay, are you credentialed? Have you taught in a public school?
I have not taught, and I've said that.
Okay.
Yes.
I have been an administrator, but I'm not a credentialed teacher. That being said, when I was operating as an administrator, I would teach a class each semester, just so I could have a sense of what was going on in the classroom. 20 years in law, 20 years as an attorney, I taught debate. Now I taught debate in the library so that the credentialed librarian could be in the classroom with me. What I found in that process is it's incredibly hard to be a good teacher. I learned that while I have a great subject matter understanding, I do not have the pedagogy, I do not have some of the training that was necessary. I would frequently go to my teachers and say, what about this, what about this? I have a very different view of what it is to be a teacher from that experience, and I don't necessarily share your views, but that's okay.
Thank you. Another audience question.
So I have two questions, but I'll ask one to start. How do you work with people when you completely disagree with them? Do you feel that there's room to compromise or just stand your ground because there's a lot of varying opinions opinions on education, and when you are chosen to be on the state school board, I'm sure there's going to be people who completely disagree with your ideas, and is it, well, if I don't get that, then I won't compromise at all, and we'll just, gridlock like I see so much with politicians in this state and in the federal government, or is it, well, let's work together, so.
Is the question, how do you work with people you disagree with then?
How do you work with people when you completely disagree with them?
Completely disagree. Okay, Lisa, let's start this one.
Interesting question. I think there are things that you do not move from. Parents are the experts of their children. I am not going to stand in the way of a parent saying, no, this is not right for my child. Okay, then let's solve the problem. I am not going to stand in the way of teachers and parents working together to help the child. It's none of my business. It's not the state's business. It's your business. As a state school board, I will not compromise your rights as parents. That would mean I would compromise my own right as a parent, and I will not do that. If there is someone who I completely disagree with, then I will vote no. There are some times when you have to vote no and you stand your ground. There are some times when you do compromise and we do make deals and we talk behind lines and come to a consensus. What do we agree on first? What are the basic foundations first we agree on? This is about children. Okay, great. Let's work from there. What about children? Does it compromise parents? Okay, no it doesn't. All right, let's move forward. We step by step build on what we agree with together, and we start there. You can't build from the top, you have to build from the bottom, and that's what I would do.
I have great faith that when you get two people in a room and you ask what they agree on, that's a good place to start. I don't think that there's anyone I've ever met who I completely disagree with on everything. Lisa and I have different views on many things, but I know fundamentally she cares about students and wants to do what's best for students. I do as well. From there we build. We don't have the option to gridlock. When I was young, I worked in Washington, D.C., and I was very principled, and I thought, why are some decisions made? And some decisions are made, not every decision needs to be based on some principle, but sometimes there is room for compromise. And you make compromises where it's appropriate to move things forward sequentially, to make small steps. You might want big steps, you might want to have that fight, but you make the small steps necessary. Now those small steps need to be made with people. That's the biggest part of completely disagreeing. You never completely disagree. What you need to do is talk more. So the last task force I was on was an education funding task force. We met for 36 hours of actual meetings with different groups. I was representing the charter schools, Teachers Association, Superintendents Association, Business Managers Association, many legislators. We all came to the table thinking that we would disagree on everything. In the end, I quote somebody that I started out disagreeing with, I realized we have more in common than we have differences. That took place over 36 hours of meetings and hundreds of hours of discussions after the fact. I think we need more of that in this state. Yes, it's going to take time. Yes, it's going to be hard. But if we don't get all of the people who are involved in education, who are committed to education, including the students themselves, sitting around at the table and having these conversations, we don't get there together, and therefore we don't get there.
The Founding Fathers locked themselves in a room in Philadelphia during the hot summer of 1776 and prior. They were in there for months, and food was brought to them, and they disagreed down to the subject of slavery, and the South wouldn't sign until they compromised, and they gave them 30 years because of economic reasons. There are times when we're going to have to compromise. Right now, Montesquieu said that the government that is in power needs to teach the children, and this is paraphrasing, and it needs to teach the children to keep the system going. And Abraham Lincoln, again paraphrasing, that the philosophies taught in the classroom will be the government you have tomorrow. We have a socialist government right now. We have socialism going on in the classroom. I am going to contend that I will stand up for liberty and I will start to move the course of that way back. We have to keep that going.
All right, do we have another audience question?
Hi, my name is Russ Hatch. My wife is a teacher. In fact, tonight she's doing parent-teacher conferences. My question is probably a little more focused in the area of creating better teacher quality and rewards for that quality. Very early on, she became a board-certified teacher, and she did it more as an intrinsic thing rather than extrinsic. But she also found out that some of these board-certified teachers across the country and other states were doing quite well in recognizing the education departments at recognizing their accomplishments. I understand recently the legislature's done so as well, but it's been more of a applicable topics or subject areas like math or science or whatnot. She's a social studies teacher, but if you're a board member, maybe you might look at maybe perhaps broadening the application of funds for where teachers show an increased capability and ability to teach, that they might find additional reward to do so.
Erin, let's start with this one.
Russ, my apologies, my hearing isn't great and I missed a few of your words, so I'm going to do my best with what I caught. Rewards for good teachers and good teaching. Yes, but how do we go about doing that? So when we talk about performance pay, I can tell you from having been in a position to set class schedules, if I had a particularly troubled student who I knew needed extra support, would I put that student in the most experienced teacher's class or the brand new teacher's class? I'd put him in the most experienced teacher's class. That would mean that if I was judging her capabilities based on DRO test results, her scores would go down, which is not appropriate. So this is a conundrum that we deal with when we talk about performance-based pay, is if all students were equal, maybe that would be a good way to start. It isn't. But administrators can tell when you have a teacher who's doing a good job. Parents can tell, students can tell. It's interesting how much students can tell. And those things should be rewarded. They should be recognized, they should be listened to. At my last town meeting, a former student came up to me and she said, you know what's missing from the education system? You never ask us. You never ask us as students. And I think that students being able to participate in that, talk to their teachers and be able to say, this really matters to me and this helps, is a big deal. Now, where would I go with that? I kind of just shot down some of the performance-based pay. Here's where I would go. Teachers, students, parents, and administrators identify teachers who are doing a great job, who are working the extra hours, who are really committed and who are changing lives. We need to create mentorship positions where they are paid more and they are rewarded more to stay in the classroom rather than make a financial decision to go into administration or counseling or something else. We need to recognize those skills, we need to recognize that expertise and do something with it and for it.
I think teachers need to be acknowledged more often than they are individually. I think they have so much on their plate that they feel left behind, right? Forgotten. They're up early in the morning. My house backs up to Butterfield Elementary School, and I see them drive in at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and some of them don't leave until 6, 7 at night. I know how long they work. And it doesn't mean that they leave their work at school either. They bring it home until 1, 2 in the morning to correct testing or papers and things like that, and they get up and do it 5 hours later all over again. We need to acknowledge that. I think the greatest accolade is to have your own students acknowledged to that teacher. Teacher, you did a great job. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for inspiring me. I can't think of anything more humbling, more fulfilling than having your own student coming to you and acknowledging that. Parents, you need to acknowledge your teachers and the struggle that they're going through, how much regulations are coming down upon them, how they're having to shuffle what the federal and the state and the district and their supervisors are telling them to work with in the classroom, and not letting them be free in the classroom, stifling their creativity, their knowledge, their know-how to handle a classroom. I think we also need to empower them by giving them more classroom management skills. I think that would make them feel confident. You know, provide confidence-based rewards. You know, that would keep them going. But until these regulations are gone, this is not going to happen. This is all good and dandy and, you know, things we can strive for, but it's not going to happen. It's going to get worse. And that's a warning. We've already known this. We've known about the teacher shortage coming. I've known about it since 2013. Today we have over 900 teachers in want in the state of Utah. We're in trouble.
Thank you to our candidates and to the audience. We are now going to let our candidates have a closing statement, and we'll start with Lisa.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. I am for parents' rights and I'm for teachers all the way. Their expertise of their child is paramount, and the federal government has no business mandating and dictating what we need to do with our children. At the summit today, I came home, I heard in the first speech about collectivism. The theme was your children, their education, our collective future. I'm so sorry, but I firmly disagree with that. My child's education, his future. No one else's. America was founded based on American exceptionalism with our morals and our values and the choice of freedom, and that equals liberty. With that, we have the ability to pursue our own happiness. What's coming down is this. Currently, the House of Representatives in D.C. passed a law that would stifle that child's choice and have him on a career path from the grade 7, based on his testing scores. The bill in the Senate failed. Thank heavens, but it will be back. We have to start standing up for our children, and this is what I have done, and what I'm still doing, and what I will continue to do.
I've spent the last 10 years in education, about half of that time as a volunteer. Everything from a homeroom mom to a school administrator to an education advocate. Spent the last 5 years lobbying on the Hill for various interests. Been very pleased to work with some great people in so doing. I know I have been to almost every education committee, education appropriations committee. I know the people who work there. I also, every Sunday, go for a walk with one of my best friends who is a teacher and talk to my sister who is also a teacher. I'm raising my own children and have them in both charter and district schools. I have a perspective that I hope is broad enough, but I am always open to listening to others and to understanding from the best and the brightest minds how we can do better. I'm in this race because I think we can do better. From the observations that I've had, from what I have seen, I've seen a reduction in civility. I've seen a diminishing respect for educators. I have seen diminishing opportunities for our students, and I believe that we can do more with what we have. I believe we owe our children better opportunities than we are giving them. I was at the same conference today and I saw it differently. I saw it as providing more opportunities for our students going forward, providing more information about the opportunities that are available in future college and careers, and presenting that information to the students and to those who are helping educate them. I believe that if we are not preparing kids for their own future, we are ultimately failing them. we as a collective unit need to do so. We need to work together in doing so. I'm somebody who works with teams. I work with people. I'm very interested in hearing what everyone thinks, coming up with a plan from there. As an attorney, I see things from multiple sides and try and work to come up with the best solutions that we can together. I believe that's what I can bring to this position. I would appreciate your support.
Thank you so much to the candidates for their thoughtful responses and to the audience for your great questions. If you want to continue to talk with the candidates, we're going to have a meet and greet immediately following this. But let's give a round of applause for our candidates.